Megan Parks with Exploring Parks here. Today I want to make a quick video to discuss the difference between the mummy sleeping bag and a rectangular shaped sleeping bag. When you're choosing your sleeping bag, it's really important to decide what's going to work best for you. Nobody can get on and say, oh, this is the best sleeping bag, because it will not work for every climate and every location that you're camping. You really need to consider 5 different aspects when it comes to your sleeping bag. This is going to be the temperature rating, the comfort level, the weight, the pack size, and the versatility of the sleeping bag. One huge component of all of these is going to be the insulation that is used inside of your sleeping bag. So typically there are 2 types of insulation that are used in sleeping bags, either down or synthetic. Down insulation is made from goose feathers, and there's a lot of pros and cons to it. So in general, the down insulation packs up more compactly. It's also weighs less. It keeps you more warm, but it can be more expensive, and it's not a good idea to get it wet. Synthetic insulation is one of the most common insulations used in sleeping bags. It's less expensive, it's hypoallergenic if that matters to you, and it's just an easy insulation to find when you're looking for your sleeping bag. When you're choosing which type of sleeping bag to purchase, you need to think about the temperature rating. So just to give you a warning, when you look at a sleeping bag and it says, oh, it's rated for 20 degrees. 20 degrees means that's the survival level, not the comfort level. So if you take that sleeping bag out and the night drops to 20 degrees, you're probably not going to be very comfortable in it, but you will survive. A rule of thumb for me is to choose a sleeping bag that's about 10 to 20 degrees lower than what I expect the temperature to be. When it comes to temperature rating, you will usually find that the mummy sleeping bag is made for lower temperatures. You can find rectangular sleeping bags that are rated for cold temps, but the mummy sleeping bag is designed to help you maintain your body temperature while you sleep in cold weather. The shape of the hood on the mummy sleeping bag holds in the heat of your head, and then the tight fit around your body helps hold in your body heat. There's also some other designs on the mummy sleeping bag that they typically use to help keep your body heat in. One design is called the draft collar. So usually around the collar of your sleeping bag, there's a little bit more insulation to help keep that heat down, like on your lower extremities. And there's also typically a draft tube, which is a special insulation they use along the zipper of the sleeping bag to keep your heat from escaping through the zipper line. Rectangular sleeping bags can be rated for cold temperatures, but you have to consider that the heat is going to be escaping out the top of that rectangular opening. If you live in a warmer or even a moderate climate, you might decide to go with the rectangular sleeping bag because you'll have a better time regulating your body heat and letting it escape while it's warmer at night. Overall, when you're considering temperature rating, if you camp in colder temperatures, you most likely want the mummy sleeping bag, and warmer temperatures will most likely use the rectangular sleeping bag. Another factor that you need to think about when you're choosing your sleeping bag is how comfortable it's going to be for you. If you are a side sleeper or a back sleeper, that can make a huge difference. Also, if there's certain materials that you prefer to sleep with, that might help you with your choice. When it comes to the mummy sleeping bag, you usually only have that one option of fabric, that slick fabric, to use. Also, the mummy design of the sleeping bag is really only good for back sleeping. If you're a side sleeper and your bag fits you a little bit loosely, then yes, you will have some room to sleep on your side, but it's not going to be as comfortable as a rectangular sleeping bag. The rectangular sleeping bag has a lot of space for you to sleep from side to side on your back. However, also it's easier to unzip and use it like a comforter if you need to. And there's usually some more options for the fabric when you're choosing a rectangular sleeping bag. Sometimes they're the polyester or they're lined with something like flannel, but there's a little bit more variety there if you need it. When it comes to the comfort level, you need to consider if you can sleep comfortably on your side or your back, however, in whichever sleeping bag that you choose. The third component to think about is the weight of the sleeping bag. If you're car camping or tent camping, this might not be as important for you, but if you're backpacking, then you really need to be conscious of how much weight you're putting in your backpack. The Mummy sleeping bag is generally designed for backpackers to keep that weight low. Also, if you choose your insulation accordingly, you could go with the down insulation, which weighs even less and usually packs up more tightly. If weight is not an issue, then the rectangular sleeping bag would be great. But if you have to consider it, then usually the Mummy sleeping bag with its smaller size is going to weigh less for you. Along with weight, you need to consider the pack size of your sleeping bag. When you roll it up, how big is it? So, I mean, you can see two examples here. This is a little bit larger of a pack size and a smaller pack size, but you need to decide when you're packing your car for car camping, do you have room for the bulky sleeping bags? Especially if you're backpacking, how much room do you actually have in your backpack for that sleeping bag when it's packed up? For the most part, the Mummy sleeping bag is going to be the smaller pack size because of the design, and it uses less fabric than a full rectangular sleeping bag. So if you need to consider pack size, then the Mummy bag might be the best option for you. The last component that you should think about when you're choosing your sleeping bag is the versatility of it. So if you want multiple options where you can open it up and use it in different ways, then you might need the rectangular sleeping bag. The Mummy sleeping bag has a closed off footing in it, so you can't unzip it all the way around and lay it flat, for the most part, unless you find a unicorn sleeping bag. But if you need some options, the rectangular sleeping bag, you can always unzip it and lay it out flat. It could be a bottom cover for you. You could use it as a comforter. You can even zip two together to make a double sleeping bag. There's just a little bit more versatility when it comes to the rectangular sleeping bag compared to the Mummy sleeping bag. Again, when you're choosing your sleeping bag shape, you need to consider what type of camping you're doing and what type of climate. So if you're car camping, if you're tent camping, or if you're in moderate temperatures, then the rectangular sleeping bag can be a good option there. If you're backpacking, if you're hammock camping, or if you're sleeping in colder temperatures, then you're probably going to want to go with the Mummy shaped sleeping bag. Just to give you an idea of how both sleeping bags work, when we used to live in Texas, we had rectangular sleeping bags. I actually don't even have any to show you today because we got rid of them when we moved to Utah, into the mountain range, and now we live in Wyoming in the mountain range where it's very cold. So we use Mummy sleeping bags for the most part, or actually always, because we sleep in colder temperatures, and we also like to backpack and just keep our pack size very small when possible. Our favorite sleeping bag is the Kelty brand sleeping bag. So I have two of them here. They're both Mummy shaped sleeping bags. This one's rated for 20 degrees. It's made out of synthetic insulation, and it's just regular size, but you can see the pack of it is really big. So this is typically what we use when we're cold camping. My husband also has the 40 degree rating extra long sleeping bag because he's a little bit taller, but you can see that it packs down a little bit more than the 20 degree one. This one's also made out of synthetic, but it does pack down nicely. So if you're shopping for sleeping bags and you mainly camp in cold conditions, then we highly recommend these Kelty sleeping bags, and I'll link those in the description if you're interested. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you decide how to choose between a rectangular sleeping bag and a Mummy shaped sleeping bag based on your camping conditions. If you're looking for more tips, tricks, or reviews for adventure gear or camping, then please check out our channel or check us out at exploringparks.com. Thanks guys, keep exploring.